A narrative of hidden truths, betrayals, and a startling romance culminates in murder and an undisclosed pregnancy. Hannah Guilford, an 18-year-old senior at Cocoa Community High School in Cocoa, Indiana, navigated a life filled with both achievements and obstacles. As the star of the cheerleading team, she was cherished by her classmates and recognized for her captivating halftime performances. Her vibrant personality and athletic skills earned her the nickname Spark, and she often graced the pages of local newspapers for her accomplishments in cheerleading competitions. Hannah aspired to pursue a college education in kinesiology, with the goal of becoming a physical therapist for athletes. Residing in a comfortable suburban home with her parents, Randy Guilford, 38, and Katrina Guilford, 34, Hannah faced additional pressures. Randy, a sales manager and former promising football player whose career was derailed by an injury, projected his unfulfilled dreams onto Hannah, urging her to attain excellence in both cheerleading and academics. Meanwhile, Katrina, who had once been a vibrant presence at Hannah's practices, became increasingly distant due to her struggles with alcoholism and feelings of inadequacy, which created tension within the household. Beneath her cheerful exterior, Hannah concealed a profound secret. She was involved in a romantic relationship with her cheerleading coach, Eric Masterin, a charismatic and influential figure within the school's athletic program. This forbidden relationship took a complicated turn when Hannah discovered she was pregnant, leaving her in a state of confusion and turmoil. Hannah, overwhelmed by fear, chose to confide in no one, not even her closest friends, as she dreaded the scandal that would ensue if the truth were revealed. In the weeks leading up to her untimely death, her life became a chaotic mix of activities and escalating anxiety. She was preoccupied with preparing for final exams, fulfilling her cheerleading obligations, and contemplating her future. Her friends observed that she appeared unusually anxious, her typically bright smile often replaced by moments of sadness. At home, tensions escalated as her parents engaged in frequent arguments, exacerbated by her father's relentless pressure and her mother's struggles with addiction, creating a tumultuous atmosphere. In the final days of her life, Hannah experienced a poignant mixture of hope and despair. She envisioned liberating herself from the burdens of secrets and expectations, dreaming of a future where she could pursue her passions and embrace new responsibilities. Tragically, those aspirations were shattered by the harrowing events that unfolded on May 12, 2016. At approximately 7:30 a.m., Randy Guilford descended to the basement of their home in Cocoa, Indiana, expecting to find his daughter Hannah preparing for another school day. Instead, he encountered a scene that would irrevocably alter his life. Hannah's lifeless body lay at the foot of the stairs, surrounded by her cheerleading gear and trophies from her competitions. The basement, once a proud display of Hannah's accomplishments, had transformed into the site of an unimaginable tragedy. Randy stood frozen, unable to comprehend the reality before him, a 38-year-old sales manager who had dedicated so much of his energy to uplifting his daughter. A profound sense of disbelief and panic washed over Randy as he realized his daughter was in distress. After a few agonizing moments, he rushed to her side, desperately searching for any signs of life, but it became evident that Hannah had succumbed. The vibrant young woman who had been the focal point of his existence lay lifeless before him. Struggling to regain his composure, Randy dialed 911, his voice trembling with emotion as he stammered, "My daughter, she's not breathing." The operator requested further details, but Randy found it difficult to focus, overwhelmed by the horrifying truth that Hannah would never achieve the dreams she had tirelessly pursued. Within minutes, paramedics arrived and confirmed the devastating news: Hannah was dead. The basement, once filled with vitality, now stood in eerie silence, interrupted only by Randy's labored breaths and the distant hum of a television upstairs. Meanwhile, Katrina Guilford, Hannah's mother, remained asleep in her bedroom, groggy from a night of heavy drinking. It was only when Randy's anguished cries reverberated through the house that she awoke, disoriented and confused. As the reality of the situation dawned on her, her heart-wrenching screams pierced the morning stillness, adding another layer of sorrow to the tragic loss enveloping the Guilford family. The Cocoa police arrived at the residence around 8:00 a.m. in response to Randy's emergency call. Leading the investigation was Detective Brielle Reno, a seasoned officer with over 5 years of experience, recognized for her keen instincts and no-nonsense approach. The sudden death of a beloved high school cheerleader like Hannah Guilford was sure to send shockwaves through the community. As Reno and her team entered the basement, they were confronted with a scene that immediately aroused their suspicions. Hannah's body lay at the base of the stairs, surrounded by cheerleading paraphernalia, including trophies and pom-poms. While her injuries suggested a fall, the positioning of her limbs and the lack of blood at the scene hinted at something far more nefarious. The dimly lit basement, illuminated by the morning light filtering through small windows, was decorated with photographs and ribbons celebrating Hannah's cheerleading achievements. Despite the appearance of a tragic accident, Reno's trained eye detected several discrepancies. The room was in disarray, yet nothing appeared to be out of place or disturbed, which was unusual for a fall severe enough to result in death. Forensic technicians commenced their examination of the area, capturing photographs and gathering evidence. A large trophy located near Hannah's body drew particular attention. It exhibited slight stains that could potentially be fingerprints and, due to its weight, could serve as a plausible murder weapon. Reno instructed that it be tagged and sent for further analysis. The investigation expanded to the remainder of the house, where the television in the living room continued to broadcast Good Morning America, its cheerful tone contrasting sharply with the surrounding tragedy. Katrina Guilford sat on the couch, her face pale and haggard, while a half-empty vodka bottle on the coffee table served as a grim reminder of her ongoing battle with alcoholism. Randy paced anxiously, visibly shaken yet cooperative with the officers. On that same day, the preliminary forensic report revealed an unexpected twist. Hannah was not only pregnant but the revelation that she was also a carrier of HIV intensified the scrutiny surrounding her death. Investigators began to examine her relationships, particularly her troubling and illicit affair with her married cheerleading coach, Eric Masterin, a man of significant influence within the school district. Detective Brielle Reno's instincts suggested that Hannah's death was not a mere accident. The interplay of her pregnancy, her medical condition, and the disturbing circumstances at the scene hinted at a far more sinister narrative. The initial focus of the investigation was Coach Eric Masterin. At 46, Masterin served as the cheerleading coach at Cook Community High School, recognized for his commanding presence and ability to motivate his team. He was a well-respected member of the community, yet Reno harbored suspicions that beneath his seemingly impeccable reputation lay hidden truths he was eager to conceal. In the police station, Masterin found himself in a dimly lit interrogation room, a slight sheen of sweat visible on his forehead. The stark walls and the soft hum of the air conditioning amplified the tension in the atmosphere. Initially, Masterin appeared cooperative, speaking highly of Hannah Guilford and portraying her as one of the most talented and dedicated young women he had ever coached. She had immense potential, he remarked, his voice trembling. The way she commanded attention on the floor was as if she was destined for it. However, as Reno's inquiries became more direct, she pressed Masterin about the nature of his personal relationship with Hannah and whether it extended beyond the confines of cheerleading practices. Masterin grew visibly tense but maintained that their relationship was entirely professional. The atmosphere was professional, yet Masterson's discomfort was palpable. The pivotal moment arrived when Reno slid a folder across the table towards him. Inside were copies of explicit text messages and photographs exchanged between him and Hannah just days prior to her death. Masterson's confident demeanor shattered as he gazed at the evidence, his complexion drained of color, and his hands quivered as he clutched the table's edge. "She made me feel like a dog in heat," he stuttered, "but I never intended for it to escalate this way." Reno pressed on, stating, "We know Hannah was pregnant, Coach Masterson," her tone steady yet assertive. "The autopsy confirmed it, and the timeline indicates you as the father." Masterson's jaw clenched, and his breathing became labored. Before he could formulate a response, Reno revealed another shocking detail: she also tested positive for HIV. "The tests indicate she contracted it from you." The gravity of these revelations shattered any remaining composure Masterson possessed. He buried his face in his hands, murmuring, "I didn't know, I swear I didn't know I was positive." When Reno inquired if Hannah was aware of his condition, he vehemently denied it, asserting, "No, she didn't know. I never wanted to hurt her." Despite his admissions, Masterson continued to reject any involvement in Hannah's death, claiming ignorance of her plans that morning and insisting their relationship, though inappropriate, had been consensual. However, his escalating agitation only intensified Reno's suspicions. Ultimately, Masterson was released while the investigation proceeded, but Reno made her position unmistakably clear: "You are at the center of this now, "Coach," she stated with unwavering determination, "and I will not relent. Until I uncover the circumstances surrounding Hannah Reno, I will shift my focus to Randolph Randy Guilford, Hannah's father, who serves as a sales manager at a local car dealership and is a well-known figure in the community. Randy has a reputation for living through his daughter's accomplishments. A former high school athlete, his sports career was abruptly cut short by a back injury, leaving him with unfulfilled aspirations that he projected onto Hannah. He relentlessly encouraged her to excel, ensuring she was the standout performer on her team. However, his behavior raised concerns from the outset. Although he portrayed himself as a grieving father, his persistent inquiries about how the tragedy would impact Hannah's reputation and the family's status in the community overshadowed his expressions of sorrow. During his interview, Randy claimed that his involvement in Hannah's life was solely supportive, stating, "She was the best," with a voice laden with emotion. He emphasized that Hannah was destined for success and that he had ensured she had every opportunity. Nevertheless, text messages retrieved from Randy's phone revealed a troubling dynamic. He was aware of Hannah's inappropriate relationship with Coach Masterin and, in some instances, even facilitated it. In one message, Randy proposed times for Hannah to meet with Masterin, offering to cover for her at home. Another message congratulated Masterin following a notable performance by Hannah at a regional competition, disturbingly suggesting that their relationship had positively impacted her routines. When confronted with this evidence, Randy initially denied any knowledge of the messages but ultimately acknowledged his awareness of the situation. The relationship, which I initially perceived as innocuous, was described by him as he muttered that she was content and that he was as invested in her success as I was. However, despite his assertions, his anxious demeanor was unmistakable. Reno also inquired about Randy's reaction upon learning that Hannah was both pregnant and HIV positive, information disclosed through the autopsy. Randy's fists were clenched tightly as he spoke through gritted teeth, asserting that had he known, he would have intervened. His behavior, however, suggested otherwise. Reno suspected that Randy's fixation on the family's reputation, coupled with his awareness of Hannah's involvement with Masterin, may have compelled him to act recklessly. By the conclusion of the interview, it became evident to Reno that Randy was concealing vital information, and his involvement in the circumstances surrounding Hannah's death was under significant scrutiny. Katrina Guilford, Hannah's mother, emerged as the next subject of Detective Reno's investigation. At 34 years old, Katrina had once been a lively young woman, a former cheerleader and small-town beauty queen known for her captivating personality. By May 2016, however, she had become a mere shadow of her former self, grappling with alcoholism and feelings of inadequacy. Her marriage to Randy had grown increasingly cold and distant, with Randy entirely preoccupied with Hannah's cheerleading pursuits, leaving Katrina feeling invisible within her own home. Her struggles with alcohol were an open secret in the community, as neighbors often observed her purchasing inexpensive wine and vodka at the local liquor store. Her drinking had escalated to such an extent that sobriety had become a rarity, and her erratic behavior had estranged her from friends and family. Additionally, her relationship with Hannah was fraught with tension, as Katrina harbored resentment towards the immense pressure Randy imposed on their daughter. On the morning of Hannah's death, Katrina was at home and was the first to discover Hannah's body in the basement, subsequently calling 911. Her voice during the call was frantic and slurred due to alcohol consumption. Upon the officers' arrival, they found her in a state of near hysteria, alternating between uncontrollable sobbing and heart-wrenching screams. Her disheveled appearance and the odor of alcohol on her breath raised immediate concerns. During her interview with Detective Reno, Katrina exhibited erratic behavior, oscillating between emotional outbursts and unsettling calmness. When questioned about her relationship with Hannah, her responses were inconsistent. She repeatedly stated, "Hannah was my baby." However, when Reno inquired about the days leading up to her daughter's death, Katrina provided vague and fragmented responses. The mention of Coach Masterson caused a significant shift in her demeanor, as her face contorted with rage while she accused her daughter of stealing Masterson's attention. "Hannah was always the perfect little girl," she spat bitterly, "but she had no right to take what was mine. That man was supposed to love me." Her words unveiled a deep-seated envy bordering on obsession. As the interrogation progressed, Katrina's agitation intensified when Reno cautiously suggested that Hannah's death might not have been accidental. she erupted in incoherent denials before collapsing into tears. Her emotional instability and volatility positioned her as a person of interest, as Reno could not overlook the possibility of her involvement. Deep-rooted grievances and a declining mental condition may have culminated in a tragedy on May 18, 2016. Just 1 week following Hannah's passing, an unforeseen incident transpired during her memorial service held in the high school gymnasium. Hundreds of attendees gathered to pay tribute to the young cheerleader, creating a somber atmosphere filled with heartfelt remembrances and poignant speeches. However, an unexpected outburst from Randy Guilford left the audience in shocked silence. Clearly intoxicated and emotionally unstable, Randy suddenly rose during the service, managing to articulate his words despite his slurred speech. In a moment of unrestrained emotion, he revealed that he was aware of his wife Katrina's involvement in their daughter's death. Randy confessed that he had assisted Katrina in fabricating the scene to appear as an accident, all in a misguided effort to protect the family from public disgrace. The revelation sent shockwaves through the gathering, as mourners grappled with the implications of his admission. Detective Reno, who had been present to observe the family's demeanor, quickly recognized that the case had reached a pivotal moment. Following Randy's confession, officers from the COK Police Department took him into custody for further interrogation. Investigators also returned to the Guilford residence, now with a fresh perspective on potential evidence. Upon re-examining the basement, they uncovered traces of blood that had been insufficiently cleaned, along with additional fragments of a broken trophy that had previously gone unnoticed. Forensic analysis later confirmed that the blood belonged to Hannah, further solidifying the case against the Guilford family. Randy's comprehensive confession revealed a distressing account of the events that led investigators to conclude that Katrina had assaulted Hannah with a trophy during an intense argument. Overcome by fear and a sense of loyalty, Randy aided Katrina in concealing the crime. Together, they manipulated the scene to appear as a tragic accident, positioning Hannah's body at the base of the stairs and scattering her cheerleading gear to support their fabricated story. On May 20, 2016, just 38 hours after Randy's confession, authorities officially named Katrina Guilford as the primary suspect in her daughter's murder. At 34 years old, Katrina, a homemaker grappling with severe alcoholism, had long been a controversial figure within the community. Her unpredictable behavior and tumultuous relationship with Hannah were well recognized by neighbors and friends. However, the revelation of her role in her daughter's death left many in shock. Detective Briel Reno spearheaded the operation to apprehend Katrina, with the arrest taking place early that morning under overcast skies that reflected the somber atmosphere among the officers. When Katrina answered the door, her disheveled appearance and visibly aged demeanor suggested that the burden of her guilt had taken a significant toll. In the days following the memorial service, she offered little resistance and surrendered quietly. As the handcuffs were fastened around her wrists, Katrina broke down in tears, not from shock, but from a sense of resignation, as if she understood that the truth had finally come to light. As she was led to the police vehicle, the typically vibrant suburban neighborhood fell into an unsettling silence, broken only by the distant hum of activity. Morning traffic disrupted the tranquility at the police station. Katrina had been formally charged with the murder of her daughter. During her initial interrogation, she exhibited a range of emotions but was unexpectedly cooperative, recounting a chilling narrative of the events that led to the tragic incident. According to Katrina, the conflict began with a fierce argument on the night of Hannah's death. In a state of deep intoxication, Katrina confronted her daughter in a fit of jealousy regarding Hannah's alleged relationship with Coach Masterin, a connection that Katrina had secretly coveted for herself. The argument escalated rapidly, and in a moment of blind rage, Katrina seized one of Hannah's trophies and struck her, delivering a fatal blow. Overcome with panic, she contacted Randy, who returned home to discover their daughter lifeless. Consumed by fear and desperation, the couple resolved to conceal the crime. They moved Hannah's body to the base of the stairs and scattered her cheerleading gear to create the illusion of a tragic accident. Randy believed this would shield the family from scandal, but ultimately, his conscience compelled him to confess. Katrina's arrest sent shockwaves through the tightly knit community of Cocoa. The Guilford family, once admired for their apparent success and unity, was now revealed to be deeply fractured and troubled. The community grappled with reconciling the image of a devoted mother with the horrific act of taking her own daughter's life. The trial of Katrina Guilford for her daughter's murder commenced in late August 2018 at the Jackson County Courthouse in Cocoa, Indiana, drawing extensive media attention and transforming the case into a local spectacle. The courtroom was filled with spectators, many of whom had been acquainted with the Guilford family for years and were seeking closure for the tragedy that had profoundly impacted their community. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Mark Luno, portrayed Katrina as a woman driven by jealousy and resentment regarding her daughter's relationship with Coach Masterin, a connection she had long desired for herself. Luno underscored the brutality of the act, detailing how Katrina had struck Hannah with a trophy and subsequently enlisted Randy to manipulate the scene to appear as an accident. Forensic evidence, along with Randy's confession, constituted the core of the prosecution's case, leaving minimal room for doubt. In contrast, the defense, represented by Public Defender Leah Boonranch, contended that Katrina's actions were not premeditated but rather the result of a moment of impaired judgment, exacerbated by years of emotional distress, alcoholism, and a confrontation that escalated uncontrollably. Boonranch characterized Katrina as a woman overwhelmed by her circumstances, a mother who had reached her breaking point. She implored the jury to take into account Katrina's history of mental health struggles and addiction, advocating for leniency and framing her actions as those of a deeply flawed yet broken individual. Throughout the trial, Hannah's classmates, teammates, and friends attended to express their support for the family. Their grief was evident as they absorbed testimonies that presented conflicting portrayals of Katrina as a loving mother who had lost her way and as a jealous woman whose emotions had spiraled into violence. After 2 days of deliberation, the jury reached a verdict of guilty for second-degree murder, resulting in Katrina Guilford being sentenced to a sentence of 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole provided a bittersweet sense of closure for Hannah's friends and family. However, the community remained divided in its opinions. Some felt that justice had been achieved and that Katrina's punishment was appropriate given the severity of her crime. Conversely, others contended that her actions, while undeniably horrific, stemmed from untreated issues, arguing that the sentence was excessively severe. For Randy Guilford, the trial represented the final disintegration of his family. His involvement in concealing the crime left him struggling with guilt and facing the formidable challenge of reconstructing his life following such a tragic and public downfall. In the years that ensued, the community of Cocoa underwent irrevocable change. The story of Hannah Guilford served as a somber reminder and a cautionary tale about how envy, anger, and betrayal can obliterate even the most treasured relationships.